And we're here. The post-Christmas Q&A is now officially live. Sorry about the delay, but as you can see, I'm not at work. I'm trying a new thing, being home with the family. So the Q&A from home. Relax. You did not get fat over Christmas. It was only 2 days. You can chill. So let's dive into the questions du jour. The first question was, why do bodybuilders today have these huge guts? The turtle shell. Oh man, my daughter's toys everywhere here. Where the bodybuilder has abs, but it stands out to here. And you ask anybody, and the response is, it's from the drugs, they make the organs grow. Let's look into this. So let's go to the drugs one by one. The first one would be growth hormone. Growth hormone certainly is a growth hormone, but that mainly pertains to ligaments, muscle, skin, hair. So there is no evidence that it causes organ growth to that extent that we're seeing. If you think about it, there are HIV patients, cancer patients using growth hormone, and they don't have huge guts, right? So that is probably not it. The next one would be insulin. Insulin, also being a messenger hormone, does not affect the organs in the sense that you would have that big of a gut. Once again, diabetics use insulin and they don't look like that. Then there's IGF-1, which is the insulin-like growth factor, which is a bit trickier for the reason that it's not being used in medicine all that much. So bodybuilders, once again, are their guinea pigs using IGF-1 with bro science protocols. We don't quite know, but even there's very scant evidence that it will cause organ growth. That leaves the granddaddy, steroids, right? So steroids, especially orals, have an effect on the liver, creating a fatty liver. So you look at, not to sound too macabre, but autopsies of Dallas McCarver or Rich Piana, and you will find their liver was twice the size of, hopefully, you and I. So that, will make for some of that. Also, steroid taken for a longer time can increase visceral fat. So that would mean that the organs are coated in fat, which means while the organs aren't necessarily bigger, they still are bigger as a sum of the parts pushing out. And then there is the visceral fat buildup can cause insulin sensitivity, which could also increase the size. But all that is not very much enlightening. So the answer is there's many parts to it. So the drugs play actually rather a small role. But then there is muscularity, right? So if you think about it, Arnold was 6'2", 230 when he won the Mr. Olympia. Today you are 5'10", 260, 270 and leaner than Arnold, right? So some of that extra muscle mass sits in the abdomen, making the abdomen wall thicker and bigger, pushing it out, okay? So you simply can't have a small waist if you're carrying that much muscle on a relatively small frame. That's where you get the blocky physiques. And then think about it, when do you see bodybuilders for the most part? At shows, right? Now, there are still some genius coaches that do dry carb loading, meaning they force the athlete to ingest hundreds of calories of carbohydrates without liquids, oats, potatoes, and so on and so forth. Now, think about it logically. That stuff sits in the stomach, pulls the water out of the muscle, and gives you the appearance of a spider. So the stomach gets bigger because the glycogen cannot be transported into the muscle. So the athlete actually looks much worse. So that's another component. And then there is caloric intake. And that is what differentiates a bodybuilder from, let's say, a cancer patient or an HIV patient or any other athlete uses those drugs. So the bodybuilder, the constant excessive calorie intake to get to that size causes so much strain on the digestive system that the stomach gets distended and the intestines. So in the olden days, as my daughter says, bodybuilders got smaller in the off season. So they went off the drugs and then they lost, like Arnold was like 190, 200. And then when the time came, they started using the drugs and they got bigger and so on and so forth. Today, if somebody competes at, let's say, 270, that guy is 310 in the off season. So do the math, okay? The stress that this guy has on his intestines all the time, the digestive system will make for an extension of the stomach, okay? And that's what we're seeing. And then there's also the constant pushing for mass. So people have been told you have to be bigger, bigger, bigger. It comes at a price, right? So hopefully now, with the classic physique and all those sort of things, we'll see a step back in that regard, okay? That's the next point, just kind of fits neatly into here, carb loading, how to do it properly. It's a good question. That's one of the big mysteries in nutrition. So a carb load, you got to think, why do you want to do it, right? There's two choices, performance and appearance. So carb loads were done first by endurance athletes, mainly marathon runners. Let's say you run the New York City Marathon on the Sunday, they would not eat carbs Monday through Friday, and then Saturday night have a big pasta or spaghetti meal or whatever, okay? The result? Total disaster. So the thought was, I'm emptying my glycogen stores and I eat a lot of pasta and I run faster. If you eat that much carbohydrates, that many carbohydrates, so short before the race, it will not go into the muscle. So you, again, will have this big bolus of food in the stomach, but not in the muscle. So a proper carb load would be a slight depletion Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a slight up. So you're talking like maybe 70%, 70, 70, 70, 130, and so on and so forth, right? For appearance, meaning bodybuilding shows, some people do 0 carbs Monday through Wednesday, and then high carb Thursday, Friday, okay? I'm not a big fan because the optics change so much that the athlete goes nuts, okay? Because you look horrible on Monday, Tuesday, then you don't know if you're eating enough, and so on and so forth. If somebody looks good, he doesn't need all that much of a change. So it doesn't make sense to put a psychological stress on somebody if you're looking good, okay? So last week you should just be resting. So the carb load is not going to transform you from Homer Simpson into Arnold, okay? So yes, it can fill you out a little bit more, but what you're really looking into is rest and then maybe eating a few carbohydrates. Then people talk about spillover. They're saying, oh, I ate too many carbs, I spilled over. It doesn't exist, okay? That's a legend. So let's assume you're reasonably lean and you eat carbs and carbs for a day, okay? And carbs and more carbs. Then those carbs go into the muscle, okay? And at some point the muscle is full, then it might sit in your stomach. And then people say, oh, I'm pulling water. How would that work? Where's the water going to come from? Out of the sun. You're not going to gain fat in a day. So let's say, by some mystery, you would have spilled over, but you were lean enough in the first point. All you had to do is to get a quick pump. You sweat out the water, the glycogen from the muscle pushes against the skin and you look great again. What people are really saying is, I'm not lean enough. There's nothing to do with spillover. I mean, yes, if you're eating carbs for 10 days, you will probably gain some body fat, but not in one day of overeating, especially when you're at a show where you're nervous and you burn through calories and all that sort of thing, okay? So the carb load, I feel, is vastly overrated as a performance enhancer, and most people do way more harm than good. Now, if you're saying, hey, tomorrow's my leg day, and I want to be maybe a little bit better, so let's say today being Wednesday, tomorrow at 6 you're training legs, right? So then, from tonight on 6 p.m. till tomorrow 2 or 3, you could say that maybe take your carbs times 1.5 or times 2, you would have a good workout, okay? Nothing magical, but like a slight improvement, yeah? So the carb load, especially for drug-free athletes, is something where a lot of people mess themselves up by not eating enough carbs after depleting and then being nervous and so on and so forth. Now, of course, somebody who's enhanced insulin, testosterone, growth hormone, you can pretty much do whatever you want because the drugs will shove all these carbs into your muscles, okay? So in general, people that do well on the show, they look great 2 weeks out. There's no magic happens in the last week, in the peak week, or anything of that sort, okay? Hey Mike, what do? I have little kids and I want to train. That's tough. I have kids. So there's a couple of components. You will just never be rested. Live with it, okay? Especially with teething. If you're waiting for the day where you slept well and to start your workout, it's never gonna happen, okay? So you just have to chalk it up that during this period of your life, your workouts might not be so great, okay? But you have kids, and kids are the greatest gift ever. So a little bit less of a workout, awesome kids, got it? So just, you do the best you can. You don't stop working out, but maybe you cut by a third or something like that, okay? So frequency beats intensity. Even if you go for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 6 times a week, as opposed to one monster workout on the weekends, you come out ahead, okay? As for food, here's my 2 cents. Cook the protein, preferably ground beef, easy to grab, and then you make do. You go to the Chinese store, you buy some rice, whatever you can do, just have the protein ready, okay? Carbs and fats, that's easy to find. Now I know I have an advantage. I work in a gym, so I can work out easier than other people, but I also have an irregular schedule. I have to be there at 6 in the morning, so on and so forth. So maybe you can do with your spouse if you're both 9 to 5, one person covers the morning, other person covers the night, or whatever you want to do. But, frequency beats intensity, cook your protein, and just, don't wait for the days like, I want to, until little Jimmy sleeps through the night or so. It's not going to happen, okay? There's always going to be something. So just go, okay? Tilapia. Is it worse than bacon? That's a good question. So, first of all, let's think about who gave us the quote, tilapia is worse than bacon. Dr. Oz, right? The same guy who told us that raspberry ketones will melt your body fat and was cited before Congress to retract those statements. You get them going. So tilapia is actually not one fish, there's hundreds of kinds. They're just grouped together as a family. It's an inexpensive fish, easy to raise, and it's very low in fat, so you don't expect much of omega-3s or whatever out of it. High in protein, and it's pretty much tasteless, right? So, for me, I'm kind of like, I have 25 hot sauces, honest to God. It's like the perfect fish, because it just tastes like cardboard, right? So I just put whatever hot sauce I'm feeling that day, and with my rice, and I'm good to go. What makes tilapia bad is the same thing that makes most foods bad, and that's production. So tilapia, especially coming from China, the standards are not there. The fish are being fed feces. You eat the feces, you get the idea. Now, you cannot say don't buy tilapia from China, because it turns out China is a big country. So there's no blanket warning. Some production sites are good, some are not, and so on and so forth. I don't have the answer. It seems the tilapia from Ecuador is a bit better. But in the end, with modern food, what it comes down to is, unless you grow your own stuff, you just have to live with certain insecurities that some food is being produced in a weird way. But tilapia is not dangerous or bad. It's also funny, people always get tested that they're allergic to tilapia, but never to fillet of sole, which is kind of the same fish family. So which one is it, right? So with tilapia, it really depends on the manufacturer. It seems those American guys are a little bit better, but there are some Chinese outfits that are good and some are bad. So I guess we have to rely on the FDA to get the bad apples out, which is a scary thought. Okay, so that's it about tilapia. What do I think about natural bodybuilding? Who cares what I think? I think it's a joke, honestly. I think anything natural, think about it. You can't even keep the Olympics clean, and you have a testing budget that's big, right? So natural bodybuilding, I have competed in shows where mysteriously the drug testing guys didn't show up that day. Weird, right? You look at some competitors, you just know they're not natural, especially today with the SARMs and the peptides. It's so easy to beat any test, right? And then there's the hypocrisy. So girls are almost expected to have a boob job, but if a guy gets a calf implant, he gets DQ'd, right? That makes no sense. So bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding, is essentially also a business, right? You need competitors. So there's the fig leaf of being natural, and there's some testing is being done, but honestly, I don't see it, okay? I almost like the NPC better, because at least they're honest. It's chemical warfare. I'm not saying it's healthy or a good idea, but there are none of this fake, I'm a natural pro, okay? Now I know there are some good people, promoters and athletes that really do their best to keep the sport clean, but it's just a losing battle. Now, why some people go into natural shows being enhanced to get a plastic trophy, that is beyond me, okay? I mean, that, like, if you are on the cusp of the NFL and you're using something to get into the NFL and make $20 million, do what you gotta do. To win the, whatever, OCD or whatever, you know, tiny little show, that is beyond me. But I think natural bodybuilding as such, I don't see it. Hey Mike, what's your favorite pre-workout carb and how much do we need for optimum performance? Pre-workout carbs, I like white rice, I like oatmeal, I like bread, it doesn't matter. Performance, you know, you kind of can go with like a quarter of your body weight. So let's say you weigh 200 pounds, 50 grams will set you on a good path, you know. I like gummy bears, but optimum performance is tough to define, depends how much you eat during the day. Once again, there's no, you know, perfect number or perfect time when you should eat something. It's all to seem like on a longer tangent, okay? So that's about natural bodybuilding. Has bodybuilding lost its ways? I know what that means, quite frankly. So I guess people have this romanticized idea of the 70s where people worked out at Gold's Gym and everybody was friends. I don't think this was the case ever, you know. I mean, there's people like on other people's toes. And so, I mean, physique-wise, the top guys are definitely somewhere where the public is not interested anymore. But I think most sports lose their ways, such as like I'm a diehard soccer fan, or I was, right? But now, you know, you have the World Cup in Qatar with 48 teams and this and that. I'm done with it, you know. Just the same way I'm done with pro bodybuilding. Like, I don't want to look like these guys anymore, you know. So I guess what loses its ways is more the people, okay? So you have to understand that for you and your fitness, you have to find the path and niche that's carved out for you. So if you are constantly updating the world about your workout status and your workouts, there's probably an issue that you might want to address with somebody qualified, okay? The fitness becomes so overwhelming, you have to lose all this crap. You know, you have to understand that on social media, the Lamborghini is rented, the boobs are fake, this guy might have an eating disorder. There isn't much to it. So you have to find for yourself what drives you to train, you know? By the same token, if you keep on posting how happy you are doing this for yourself, then there's probably an issue, if you know what I mean. So I think in the fitness world, so many people use it as constant attention grabber, and that's where it has lost its way. So it should be something that empowers you, enables you, but you don't need to broadcast it all the time, okay? And as for the pros, you know, they do their thing, and there's no need for you to tune in or not. You can let them be, or admire them. But I don't think that bodybuilding is any more out of whack than any other sport today, in that sense, you know. It's really like on the bottom level, you have to figure out that, you know, none of us will ever shake the fitness world in some crazy way. So we're not gonna make any money off this. So you have to see like what's your input versus output, and you know, how is this creating happiness for you? So it becomes a point where you need constant recognition about your physique and your workouts, then it's probably not doing you any favors, and you might want to consider doing something else. Okay? I think that's where body loses its way. What do I have? Exercises that you shouldn't be doing. Oh, that's a good one. In no particular order. Walking lunges with a barbell should not be done. Why? It's too much balancing, too little lunging. Okay? Especially in New York City, we have small gyms. I can't have people walking around with a barbell. That's too dangerous. Dumbbell works just fine. What else do I have? Front raises. Most people are elevated here as is. Do rear delt instead. Barbell curls. Don't like them. The reason being you can't do this with a barbell. So you can't really flex your biceps. Dumbbells or cables. What else have? Underhanded tricep press downs. You know, this stuff doesn't work because your grip becomes a limiting factor and you can't actually fully extend the triceps. So that's not a good idea. Reverse grip bench. Unless you have a suicide wish, don't do that one. And I don't like underhanded cable flies. I know that people get some pec minor improvement, But most people, it's too much of a front raise, okay? So you might want to consider like floor flies, where you're literally on the floor with the cables, pulling together. Mike, should beginners do barbell exercises only? I used to believe that. So when I started in the business, we were always told like people that come to the gym, they should learn to squat, to deadlift, to bend over row, pull-ups, and so on and so forth. And that was true 15 years ago. But what has happened is the generation that comes now has no athletic foundation. Example, in Germany right now, there's almost twice as many e-soccer players than soccer players, okay? So these kids, they don't come from soccer, gymnastics, swimming, wrestling, and then go to the gym. They come from sitting on their butts, eating pizza, being deprived of sunlight, vitamins, and so on and so forth. And then they join the gym. So if you put that guy under a barbell, he will break every single bone in his body, okay? So that guy is better off starting with a machine circuit, even some single joint stuff such as leg curls to build up the hamstrings, and then you can slowly teach him complex movements. But in the beginning, 90% of the people that come to my gym of younger people are not ready to do anything complex. They simply do not have the coordination. So while they should do some sort of squatting, it would be the leg press. Some sort of benching would be the cable press, and so on and so forth. But the free weight stuff that was always touted is too dangerous. Last question. People working in offices and computer work. Okay, so that's upper cross syndrome. So the upper cross syndrome basically means your upper traps are too tight, your front delts are too tight, and your lats are too weak, and it's causing elbow pain, wrist pain, can be headaches, migraines, that sort of thing. So the first thing you have to do is some trigger point work. If you have a good massage therapist or the Theragun, you know, work on the front delt and on here. And then the second thing you have to do is to create length. So that would be, if you have only a band, like some pull aparts, some reverse shrugs at the lat pull down, rotations, rear delt work, bend over rows, that sort of thing, to create a physique that's basically open. Okay. That's it for today. I shall cook lunch now, and I see you guys next year, okay? Feel free to punch in more questions into the comments, and then I get to them next week, okay? Thanks, and sorry for the delay. Mike out.